the reward of rulership. God will reward greater service on earth with greater responsibility in heaven. In Matthew 25, his master replies, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Been faithful with a few things, I'll put you in charge of many things." God will reward faithfulness in the small things of this life with leadership over big things in heaven. And because you've been trustworthy in a small matter, take charge of 10 cities. Oh, there's Luke 16, good timing. I had put that in as a note to myself to remind me of Luke 16, which is what we just looked at. God will make Christians rulers over the earth. Okay, Revelation 20, verse 6. They will be priests of God and of Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Now, because of this verse, many people suppose that, oh, this is just the millennium, well, where we will rule, and it will be the old earth, not the new earth. But there's countless passages of Scripture. Daniel 7 has about 3 or 4 different references alone to how God's people will rule the earth forever. And one of those says, yes, forever and ever, as if don't get into your mind that this is ever going to end, because it's not. We're going to rule the earth forever. And in contrast to the 4 different earthly kingdoms represented with those different animals that are being talked about in Daniel 7, this is going to be a kingdom that's going to last forever. This is the new earth where God will be king, but his people will be kings under him. They will rule the earth to his glory. God will make Christians rulers over angels. Did you not know that we will judge angels? And the word that's translated judge means in a ruling position. It can be translated that we will rule over angels. How much more the things of this life? God requires certain conditions be fulfilled in order for us to serve as rulers. If we endure, we will also reign with him. This is one of dozens and dozens of passages talk about reigning with Christ. To him who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. Whoa. You know, the family business of God's family is ruling. He's a king. He's the King of Kings. And by the way, so he's not just a king, Christ is called in Revelation, the King of Kings. What is a King of Kings? What does it mean that he's King of Kings? What does it tell you about his government? Is he the only king? No, he's the greatest king. He's the King of Kings. He's the greatest, the ultimate king. But he has kings and queens under him. And they will rule. And where they will rule on his behalf. Does that remind you of God's purpose from the very beginning? Yeah. Genesis. Adam and Eve were king and queen of creation. And they were to manage the earth to the glory of God and tender. They were to care for the animals, manage the animals, manage the world to the glory of God. And there's a lot of people who act as if, oh, Satan came, messed that plan up, and so now the human race will be forever deprived of what God intended for us to do. Nobody will ever have done it except Adam and Eve and them for what appears to be a pretty short time. Well, Satan won, God lost. Do you think that's true? No. Christ redeemed the world not just to snatch our souls out so we could live in a disembodied state in the angelic realm, but so that we and the earth itself could become what he intended it to be, so that men and women would rule together forever the earth to the glory of God. That's exactly what's going to happen on the new earth. Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why it's so diminishing and almost insulting to God's plan to act as if Satan like messed it up to the point of thwarting everything. So to him who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. To him who overcomes and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations. There'll still be nations. We'll have authority, just as I have received authority from my Father. I will also give him the morning star. That's an intriguing one, because the morning star is a reference to Venus, the planet Venus. And you say, oh, well, that's probably just a figure of speech. Well, maybe. Or maybe we'll rule over worlds that he created. And by the way, if sin hadn't come into the world, and do you think there would have been science? Or is science the result of sin? Sure, there would have been science, of course. So science is just studying God's universe and observing it. You think there would have been mathematics? Well, of course there'd be math. Do you think the science and math would have been poorer without sin or better without sin? What if all of the scientists of the world, what if there was no sin in the world, and all the scientists of the world had lived for thousands of years now, and all of them used 100% of their brain capacity instead of 10% or whatever they say we actually use? What if nobody was competing with someone else for a Nobel Prize and therefore withheld their research findings from everybody else? What if, where do you think we would be in a space program by now? I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's like God is new heavens and new earth entrusted to our care, ruling the world for his glory, maybe ruling the universe for his glory.